On this episode 40 of the podcast, I'm going to talk about... No, wait, episode 82 of the podcast, I'm going to talk about 40 Milo and doors. So, let's get into it, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Luke Who's Talking podcast. How you doing? You doing all right? You doing all right? You all right? That's good then. Anyway, yeah, I'm completely off the show. Yeah, anyway, so first, I don't know if it's really a story. It's just a thing. I feel that this episode's going to be somewhat short. I don't know, but then I'll probably still be here waffling on in like 15 minutes about nothing. Anyway, I'll get into the first topic for you. So the other week, now I'm sure out there somebody has I'm sure that for most of you out there, somebody has made I'll say mistake on your age. Sure, somebody out there's been like, oh yeah, you're 150, and you go, no, I'm only 149 or whatever. Anyway, look, the other week I was talking to somebody and they were like, oh, what do you actually what they started off doing is they asked what I do, and I said, well, I had a job, was working, and I was deemed to be surplus to requirement, you could say. So I said to them that I'm retired currently. Took an early retirement. And they're like, oh, yeah, righto. And then a little bit later on, they're like, oh, yeah, so how old are you? It's like, oh, you're young to be retired, whatever. And they're like, oh, are you 40? You're only about 40, aren't you? And then when I said, I revealed my actual age to them, they legit had a slight moment. I won't use the term meltdown, but they had a bit of a moment about it. They're like, oh. Excuse me. Yeah, they had a bit of a moment about that. I think because I used the term, I took an early retirement, or I'm currently retired. I think that probably threw them a bit. Yeah, they had a moment about that, and they're like, "Oh, you're 40?" Like, no, I'm not. I'm at least 10 years away from being 40 years old. So yeah, they had a bit of a moment about that, which was I don't know, mildly amusing. It was like very slightly comical, but I was like, yeah, no, I'm not really even really sort of close to 40. Maybe it's the hair, maybe it's the beard, maybe I'm just a wise soul. We'll say that was the case. Maybe I'm just a wise old man. But yeah, that was quite. It was interesting. I don't know. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody, or has somebody made like an assumption, if I could use that terminology, on your age, and then when you say, "Oh, I'm actually like, half that age," and they've just had a complete bit of a moment about it. I'm sure that's maybe happened. It's interesting. I wonder if I was a woman, if I would attempt to guesstimate my age. I don't know. That could be like an interesting thing. I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, I don't really have much more to say about that. So let's get into the next topic, which is sort of. I mean, I feel like I've got actually something to say about this, but anyway, we'll get into the next bit. Now the other day, I was prepping myself a hot beverage. I thought, oh, I'll have a Milo. Now, for you who Milo's like chocolate, it's just like a chocolate milk mix, chocolate mix. I guess you could say, yeah. You can have it cold with milk, or you can have a hot one. So I was having a hot one this particular evening, And also for you, those who don't know now, Milo tins are like, I don't know, maybe if you're an overseas listener, I don't know if you have, say, Nesquik, for example, but, it's like, or I think Ovaltine is similar. But I guess a more generic terminology I could say is it's like a paint can, how you put the lid on and you have to push the lid on, like into the sort of into the can, if that makes sense to say that. Now, as I was, so I got my Milo out, 3 heaped teaspoons, of course, into my vessel, and I put the lid back on and I started to push it down. Sometimes this clip goes on easy. Other times you might have to give it a little bit. Anyway, so I push down, and what happened is I pushed the lid into the can. I pushed the lid, into the can, and I thought, oh, that's not, no, that's not supposed to happen. Yes, I pushed the lid into the can, and so after I recovered from that, I then fished the can. Now it was tricky to actually get the lid out because, of course, it's a round hole for the can, obviously, and the lid, of course, is round. So I had to manoeuvre that through there. So I got the lid out, and it was buckled. I'll go yawn. Oh my goodness! And of course, the lid was buckled a bit. So I sort of what did I do then? I think I just then carefully placed it back on top, and I very gently just sort of went around the edges to get the lid back on the can. But and I don't think I particularly pushed that hard on the lid in the first place, but I pushed it and went straight in. The lid went into the can, and I thought, oh no, that's not particularly great at all. So yeah, and it's a metal lid as well, metal lid and a metal can. So it's not like some other drinks you get that have similar lids or like they're a similar setup, but the little lid might be plastic. I think the Cadbury's chocolate you can get, I think actually the container, it has a metal bottom, but I think the container is actually cardboard construction, and the lid is a plastic lid. So yeah, that's I could sort of understand something like that because the cardboard's maybe not quite as robust as say the metal can. So pushing the lid into that, I could probably see that happening. But I pushed the lid into the can. I thought that's not exciting. That's not great at all, is it? Anyway, we'll get off to the last story. It's just seeing this is the last one. Seeing something interesting. Anyway, we'll move on. We'll keep it brisk. I just want to, the video viewer, let's unlock my phone here. I'll just run an update on it. So cool. I've seen people doing unusual things, carrying unusual things, manoeuvring unusual things around on the streets or in vehicles or whatever else. But I saw something recently, and I had not. It was something else, and I saw a guy. I saw a guy carrying a door. Yeah, I saw a guy carrying a door. Now I don't know. The door looked new, and they just had it like sort of resting on their shoulder, sort of thing, as though carrying it to wherever. I could only assume what had happened is they had been to one of the two I was about to say one of the two major hardware stores. Basically, one of the two hardware stores in town, and they bought themselves a door because they needed a door, and they were carrying. And they didn't have I don't know, didn't have a vehicle available or whatever, so then they were carrying said door home. So I was driving along down the street, down the road actually, if you want to get specific. And I was driving along, and I was like, "Oh, there's a guy carrying a door." So I don't know how that situation came about, but it's just one of those unusual things, and you're like, what's going on there? I don't know, but yeah, old mate was carrying a door. It was quite interesting. Yeah. Where do I go from there? I don't know. He was just sort of bloke carrying a door. Hey, look, have you ever seen anybody carrying anything that you're like, okay, righto? Don't know. Send me an email or something. I mean, you probably won't, but hey, why not? Anyway, let's. I think it's time we wrap it up. And that is it, everybody, for this episode of the podcast. I was like, see, now look, I was like, I want to keep it snappy, and we're at like 11 and a half minutes or whatever, but, whatever. Anyway, hope you've been all right out there. Hope you've been good. Hope you look, what am I trying to say? I hope you've just been sort of having an okay time with life. If not, virtual hugs. Anyway, everybody, look, you can get in touch if you want to. You can send me an email, Luke, who's talking pod at gmail.com, or you can get me on Twitter at L_who's talking. Of course, the podcast is on YouTube as well if you want to watch the video companion, which is, it's just me in a grey top, in a very ordinary looking sort of setup. So, yeah. Anyway, everybody, look, I'll catch you next time, and I just be you, be cool, be safe, be suave, be all that stuff. Don't be. Be 40 if you're 40. Whatever, doesn't matter. Anyway, everybody, see ya.